Hi everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Jim Brown reporting. Here are the headlines. Did a federal judge order Trump to pay $10,000 fines? Is Donald Trump linked to the Proud Boys and other white supremacy extremist groups? Did Jason Miller text too chilling to read? What does Donald Trump inner circle knows about the riot? What was Mark Meadows' text messages about? Was Donald Trump Jr. text messages damaging? What does Jeffrey Clark knows about the insurrection? How the Republican members of Congress was trying to help Donald Trump plan the coup? Experts' analysis about what the Republican Party stands for. Former President Donald Trump must pay a $10,000 fine every day until he turns over evidence to New York's Attorney General, after a state judge on Monday ran out of patience with Trump's persistent refusal to abide by the law. New York Judge Arthur F. Engoron has overseen the AG's nearly two-year battle to squeeze evidence out of the Trump Organization in the state office's ongoing investigation into alleged bank fraud at the company. The judge issued his order in court this morning and said contempt was appropriate because of repeated delays and failures of Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump, I know you take your business seriously. And I take mine seriously, Engoron said. The Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, is reaching what could be the final stages of her Trump Organization investigation over the way the company has, for years, routinely inflated property values, something her investigators have deemed a scheme to dodge taxes and defraud banks. In February, the judge ordered Trump and two of his adult children, executives Ivanka Trump and Don Jr., to testify at a deposition. Although they continue to fight that on appeal, Trump himself was still obligated to turn over records. Trump missed the March 3 deadline, got an extension to the end of that month, and still hasn't turned over a page. Earlier this month, the AG's office asked the judge to intervene. It's been pulling teeth to get documents, Kevin C. Wallace, an assistant attorney general, said in court. Meanwhile, Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, castigated this a political crusade. The Attorney General's fact-finding endeavor has continued to expand and grow in unreasonable and burdensome ways, she said in court. This is truly a fishing expedition. The Trump Organization is turning over final batches of evidence that investigators say they must review before deciding whether to formally sue the company for violations of state business laws. The fight over evidence has been long and nasty. From the time the AG's probe started in March 2019, while Trump was still at the White House, state investigators met stiff resistance from the Trump Organization. The AG made its effort public in August 2020, when it initially asked the court to intervene. Trump's other adult executive son, Eric, was forced to testify behind closed doors, but merely dodged questions by pleading the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination nearly 500 times. In January, the AG's office revealed in court documents the myriad of ways the Trump Organization had altered property values, including coming up with numbers that had no basis in reality, what James later called significant evidence of fraud. One glaring example highlighted by investigators was the way Trump allegedly valued Trump Tower on New York City's Fifth Avenue on official financial statements by asserting that his three-floor palatial apartment there was 30,000 square feet, even though in reality it was a third of that. In another development, we now know that Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were sending text messages to each other discussing the security details for Trump's associates. These extremist militia groups were responsible to provide security protection for Donald Trump's cronies like Roger Stone, Alex Jones, and Michael Flynn. We also know that Trump's former doctor, who is now a member of Congress, Ronnie Jackson, and Roger Stone were escorted by the Oath Keeper member during the Capitol riot on January 6. They were planning a sedition conspiracy to overthrow the United States government, and Donald Trump, who was a sitting president at that time, was part of the conspiracy. Donald Trump refused to condemn these extremist groups because he is a dictator who loves to see violence against the country and the American people. Trump knew the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers were communicating in the days before the Capitol attack. During the presidential debate, Donald Trump refused to condemn these extremist militia groups. The moderator, Chris Wallace, asked him to condemn these white supremacy groups. Trump said this, quote, "Stand back and stand by," end quote. Trump was referring to the Proud Boys, who are his supporters. This guy Donald Trump's former aide, Jason Miller, sent a text message to former Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Call me crazy, but ideas for 2 tweets Donald Trump sent him. It said, quote, "Bad apples, likely Antifa or other crazed leftists infiltrated today's peaceful protest over the fraudulent vote count. Violence is never acceptable. MAGA supporters embrace our police and the rule of law and should leave the Capitol now. Now look at this picture. I must warn you, this picture is hard to watch." Trump said they were peaceful and it was Antifa that stormed the Capitol on January 6. Do you think these people were peaceful? Do you see a flag that says Antifa? What do you see? Now, Trump's second tweets to Mr. Miller reads thus: "The fake news media who encouraged this summer's violent and radical riots are now trying to blame peaceful and innocent MAGA supporters for violent actions. This isn't who we are. Our people should head home and let the criminals suffer the consequences." Donald Trump was trying to compare the Black Lives Matter peaceful protesters last summer in Washington, D.C. when a police killed a black man to the Capitol riot. In contrast, the Black Lives Matter protest didn't try to overthrow the government, it was about police brutality. On the day of the Black Lives Matter protester, Trump used the police, the military and other security agencies to bomb the crowd with tear gas to clear the way for him to walk down across the street to the church holding a Bible upside down for a photo op. Trump is a monster mob ruler who lies 24/7 nonstop. This is Kevin McCarthy, a sitting United States Senator, is a chronological liar. He was discussing with Liz Cheney and other Republican leaders on an audio tape about how to get Donald Trump out of office when his supporters stormed the Capitol on January, but now, he denied everything he said. This indicate how the Republican Party are all liars, an autocrat, and traitors to this country, and they will do anything to remain in power, including overthrowing the United States government. Breaking news just coming in about Donald Trump Jr. text messages he sent out to Mark Meadows on January 5, 2021. Don Jr. wrote this: "We control all." He had these ideas of how to overturn the 2020 election even before the winner of the election was called. Wait, there is more. He said, very simple. We have multiple paths, we have operational control, total leverage. Moral high ground, POTUS must start second term now. Friends, Donald Trump Jr. is texting this when the votes haven't been counted yet. This is breathtaking and what I called a deeply treasonous act he was committing. He was totally disregarding the people's votes just to ensure his dad stays in office. We will tell you what his lawyer said about his actions. Don Jr. lawyer had a perfect explanation for his client actions. He said, his client was just following the text messages to Mark Meadows, it wasn't his fault. Okay, let's take that on. For example, you got a text which said, "The security at the Bank of America just left for the day, and the vault is now unguarded, so go." You then sent this text to all of your buddies and they came and robbed the bank in the end. What will your defense be? Will you say, "Oh, I was just following the text to my buddies, I am not responsible for what they did"? The answer is no. You was making yourself a member of the team that robbed the bank. So Don Jr. didn't care that the votes haven't been counted yet, he didn't care about anything but his dad starting his second term in an election he lost. This is a clear indication that the Trumps knew they had lost the 2020 election. According to ABC News, Jeffrey Clark, the Justice Department official who spearheaded an effort to overturn the 2020 election, sought to convince the Georgia General Assembly to throw out the actual results of the race and award its electoral votes to Donald Trump instead. In a draft letter, sent last December, Clark alleged that mass voter fraud had compromised the legitimacy of Georgia's election, in which Joe Biden narrowly prevailed. As a remedy, Clark, speaking on behalf of the Justice Department, advised the state legislature to call itself into a special session, investigate the alleged fraud, and appoint a separate slate of electors who would cast their votes for Trump. Clark's superiors ultimately quashed this attempt to nullify millions of valid votes. Donald Trump inner circle like Ivanka Trump, Don Jr., Rudy Giuliani, Senator Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Fox News' Sean Hannity and Mapillo guy, Mike Lindell were all helping Trump with his coup plot on January 6. In fact, these people are all triators. This was Ivanka Trump text she sent to her dad supporters. Quote, "You are warriors of epic proportions, keep the faith and the fight," end quote. This makes Donald Trump, Jr., his father, and all of Trump's cronies a criminal, including Republican member of Congress, a charter member of a conspiracy to overthrow the government. Mark Meadows, Trump's former White House chief of staff, was a key part of the riot insurrection that happened on January 6. This is what he called Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, on November 19 and December 5, 2020, and left this message on his phone. Mr. Meadows said, "Mr. Secretary, Mark Meadows here. If you could give me a brief call at your convenience, thank you." His second call on December 5 said this: "Mr. Secretary, can you call the White House switchboard? Your voicemail is full." Mark Meadows is a traitor like the others because the FBI warned him that the riot was going to be a violent one. But he did nothing about the warning. In an exclusive CNN reporting, Donald Trump former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows' 2,319 text messages reveal about Trump's inner circle communications before and after January 6. These messages indicate an unnerving picture about how the GOP members of Congress, including members of his administration and Trump's family, were deeply involved trying to use not only perceived legal tools, or legal maneuvers, political tactics, but also the threat of mob violence to keep Trump in power. First, Mr. Meadows was warned of illegality of the scheme to overturn the 2020 election. The big scheme was to have Republican-controlled states send fake trunk electors to be counted in the Electoral College, which is a crime. According to experts, when you vote for Republican Party, you are voting for autocracy, not democracy. The party has become a party of lies and conspiracy theories. It has become a personality cult party of Donald Trump, who engaged in overturning election results or cheating in order to win. Has moved further away from democracy and decided embraced to autocracy and extremist groups' ideology. The party just doesn't care about the American people or the country. They are all hypocrites, cowards, traitors, and fearful. They rejects all form democratic norms. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, consider becoming a member and hit the like button. Thanks for watching.